Most people don't think about title insurance. And when you're buying a home, it can feel like just another cost. But it can protect you from some of the biggest surprises in home ownership. Recently, I just learned that there's only one title insurance company that's 100% Canadian, and that's TitlePLUS. Today, we're going to sit down with Ray from TitlePLUS to learn what is title insurance and why it matters. Ray, I want to say thank you for meeting with me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I'm sure there's quite a bit that I'm going to learn today. I know about title insurance. I'm a realtor, so obviously I know about it, but I'm sure there's things behind the scenes that I'm not fully aware of, so I've been really looking forward to today.
Well, there are many lawyers that don't know much about title insurance either, so This may be learning for everybody, but especially the public. We need to have a lot more information for them.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the goal here for sure. So let's start with the simple question. What is title insurance?
Title insurance is protection for the largest purchase that you're going to make in your life. It provides you with some options if something goes wrong. If somebody claims an interest in your property, you're the owner and all of a sudden somebody has a reason that they think that they have a right against you. When you didn't have title insurance, you had to sue or defend an action. Title insurance now steps in that case. It provides against defects that basically are not found or cannot be found by a title search, which a lawyer typically does when they're purchasing the property. It protects against fraud, which is a major protection that is available. It reduces the cost of due diligence in some instances. It can avoid the reason to have a survey or the need to have a survey. It can pay the legal costs if there's a claim. And it can actually pay also if you have to be displaced from your home to make repairs. So there's a lot of coverage and a lot of different options that are available that would not be available if you did not have title insurance.
And one thing that I found interesting, and tell me if this is accurate, it's like most insurance is always based on future events. But title insurance can actually protect you for some things that have happened in the past as well. Is that true?
Correct. Title insurance is typically covers you for anything that's happened in the past. But for fraud, it covers you in the future for encroachments by others.
And since we're talking about the things that could go wrong, what are some of the most common things that you've seen come across your table in terms of title insurance?
The biggest number of claims that title insurers have today is unpaid vendor taxes. The vendor basically hasn't paid and figures I'm selling the house anyways, and they don't divide the information. So what happens is basically the purchaser gets in the house, gets a bill from the city, and the city says, you have to pay. They say, well, it's the vendor's taxes. They say, no, it's the owner at the time that has to pay. If it's not been covered, then basically, your lawyer may not have done the job that they were supposed to. Lawyers should be doing part of the due diligence, which is what we used to do, is order a tax certificate to see what the status are. Not everybody does that. I think they should still do so. But if they don't, they should at least be talking to the client about it. The other thing is who's on the policy. You have husband and wife or multiple parties on the policy. They only put one name. And so the person shows up and says, I want coverage, and go, well, you're not on the policy. So very important to look. Now, all title insurance policies have what they call a jacket, but basically standard, doesn't change for anybody basically across the country. What's important, there's a schedule. There's one of the schedules which personalizes it to that property, to those owners. That's where the time should be spent by everybody to verify that all of the proper information is in place.
You said a few things there that I need to make sure I'm clear on. So the first one being people should do their due diligence in terms of what their lawyers are doing and making sure that if they bought a condo, their parking spot, their locker, all of this is covered under the title insurance.
Correct.
The first point. Who's on the policy? A question I have that I've never thought of until you just said that is, what happens if the two people, like a married couple, are on the policy, have passed away, and now the house is in the possession of children? Does the title insurance not still valid, or?
That's a different issue. One of the coverages that's in title insurance is basically it protects the owner or lender for as long as they have an interest in the property and their heirs.
Right.
And so automatically when the owner dies, the successor on title, family members would be covered, whether it's a spouse or children, that they get the title, and it's automatic. You don't need to apply for it. You don't need to pay a premium to adjust it. It's automatically covered, which one of the great features of title insurance. Is good forever, basically.
Right. So, and you said some great things there. I mean, you talked about the insurance on the lender side and obviously for the purchasers. And I think most lenders today require you to have title insurance on their side of things. Is that right?
Most lenders will give you the option. But if you don't take title insurance, you need a survey. Most people don't want to pay for a survey. And so the the option at that point is title insurance. And so it's all lenders will accept the title insurance as compensation for not having a survey. They get good coverage. So that's why lenders don't obligate you to take title insurance. They simply say, here's our requirements or title insurance. And
Perfect.
It's cheaper.
So that was going to be my question. So title insurance is cheaper than getting a survey?
Oh, definitely. Title insurance is very affordable. It's a one-time premium, as opposed to all of the other, your car insurance, your home insurance, your life insurance. It's a monthly or yearly. Title insurance is one time. When you buy the property or when you mortgage the property, that's when you get the title insurance. The cost varies, of course, between title insurance and the type of property, the value of the property. More valuable, the more you'll pay, obviously. But basically, when you look at the cost of title insurance against the survey, it doesn't even compare. So that's and then you have the other due diligence money that you may be saving also, so that it becomes very, very affordable. And then when you look at the coverage that you're getting, the fraud coverage and so on, to me, it's a no-brainer to take title insurance.
So if you were talking to someone who said, look, I have a survey and I know my lawyer, they're thorough, they did everything they need to do, why do I need title insurance? What would you say to that person?
Get title insurance.
And for what reason?
Fraud coverage is the one at that point. Yes, you have a survey. Now, is it an up-to-date survey? That's the other thing, because most people don't have an up-to-date survey. Yeah. And so they bring in that element. Is there anything wrong with the survey? The surveyor may miss something. And if they miss something, then your survey is not the value that it has. Right. So title insurance will cover you for whatever's missing or whatever the surveyor missed. But the most important part, I think, and why everybody should take it, is simply fraud. You cannot identify fraud in the past, or be hard to identify fraud from the past, but there's no protection for fraud in the future. And that's the most important part, is what happens tomorrow. I often, when I do presentations, I will ask how many people own their property, and they'll raise their hand, and I'll say, really, did you check this morning? Because a fraudster may have taken your title. Right. It happens that quickly. And so that's why the most important reason is fraud protection.
What you said about surveys, I've actually seen that happen recently. So without being too long here, clients of mine purchased a home. The house right beside them had a survey and they built. Thing is, the survey was inaccurate, and they put a very expensive retaining wall on my client's property. My clients didn't even realize this until they went to build a garage on their laneway, and their survey said that they needed to build it what appeared to be encroaching on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
So then it became an argument of who was right. It turns out the new build beside my clients had the survey was not accurate.
Yeah, it happens.
So it's exactly what you're saying there. They had the survey,
yeah,
but it was not done properly.
Yeah, and title insurance would cover at that point, and they'd work out some time of a compromise or a payment, or they'd buy the property or move the wall or what there is.
And what does it not cover?
Title insurance is for title. So it's not house insurance. So if your house burns down or if there's a leak, they're not covering that. It's not liability insurance. Somebody trips and falls on your property, they're not covering that. Mm-hmm. It is truly, are you the owner of the property? Is your lender legitimately have a good mortgage claim against the property? Those are the things it covers. There are kinds of exceptions. I mean, if it will not cover a known issue. And so if I'm buying and I know, and we talked earlier about building without a permit.
Yeah.
So if I know that I'm buying a property that was built or renovated without a permit, and I simply say, oh, don't say anything, let's just get title insurance. If I have a problem, I'll claim it against title insurance later. In the policy, it excludes anything that you should have known and should have told the insurer.
Right.
It will not cover Aboriginal title or claims. Environmental issues are not covered. And so typically in residential, that's not a great issue, but it's a part of the common exclusions that we have.
And who gets to pick the insurance company? Is it something that buyer picks? Do lawyers generally pick what title insurance company to go with? In your experience, I mean, I have a definite answer to that, but I'm curious to yours.
It's up to the homeowner's choice. Having said that, typically what happens is you hire a lawyer. The lawyer has a title insurer they work with, and that's who you get. But it's the homeowner's choice. If you walk in and say, I want a title insurance from this company, the lawyer should respect that, or basically send you to somewhere where they use that policy.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, it's a homeowner's choice as to whether they get title insurance or not, and which title insurer. But in practice, typically the lawyers are using one or two, and that's the ones that you'll be getting. And depends. Sometimes it also depends. Even though you may have a preference, the lawyer will tell you this policy will cover more because of these issues you have on your property, and so that may change things. But it comes down ultimately to the homeowner.
Yeah, and I think the key that what you're saying there is, as long as you're making an educated decision, if there's a reason why the lawyer picked a different insurance company,
correct,
make an educated decision on that. And this leads me to what I think is really important. You are the only 100% Canadian title insurance company.
Yes, we are.
Now
we are owned by LawPro, which is the insurer of lawyers in Ontario. Our only market is Canada, so we're here to stay. We insure all of the lawyers, and as a secondary line is we have title insurance. We are here. We have legal services coverage, which means that anything the lawyer should have done or didn't do properly is covered. The other title insurers will say that they offer the same thing, and we're flattered that they try to imitate us. But they don't have the exact same coverage. With TitlePLUS, you can be assured that any claim that you have, whether against title or something the lawyer did, will be covered by the TitlePLUS policy, as opposed to having to sue your lawyer if there's something and the title insurer has denied coverage.
So why do you think it's important to hire TitlePLUS? Why is it important that you're Canadian, for Canadians out there buying a home?
Well, I think you want the best coverage. No, I'm biased, of course.
Yeah.
And I was a lawyer for 25 years. And when I started, I didn't believe needed title insurance because I thought I did a good job, as many lawyers think so. The survey coverage and the fraud coverage changed my mind. It is better value for the client at the end of the day. And I think we should encourage Canadian companies. And at the end of the day, I still think that we developed this as a Canadian product, and we've done a great job identifying what needs to be covered and continue to provide good service. So I think we should, people should support it.
Yeah, I think what you said there, I agree with you. And what you said there about a Canadian company is important. A lot of people think that the way real estate transactions work in the United States and Canada are very similar. And they're actually quite different in their process. So to have a 100% Canadian company, I think is valuable as well.
The other thing about TitlePLUS is that we insist that the lawyer stays in the picture. When you talk about the U.S., basically, the title insurance companies want the attorneys out of the picture.
Right.
And at that point, who is actually acting on behalf of the owner?
Right.
It's lawyers. And so I think that's the big advantage that we have is we insist on having the lawyer be part of the transaction, maintain their role. They use title insurance, yes, as a tool, but basically maintain the role, talk to the client about due diligence. I don't have to do these searches, but should we do the searches? and explain why it's important to do it or not do it. And it's having that person in your corner that I think makes all the difference, is having that lawyer there who actually represents you. And that's what TitlePLUS has been created to do, is to retain the lawyer in the transaction for the benefit of the public.
And I love to ask this question. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you think people should know about?
I think you covered just about everything. No.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I loved meeting with you. Our conversation before this started, I learned a lot. I really appreciate that you took the time to do it.
You're quite welcome. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the interaction.
Awesome. More and more people are trying to support Canadian businesses. And when I found out TitlePLUS was the only Canadian title insurance company, I immediately called our lawyer and asked her, who are we using for title insurance? And if you're about to buy a home, I think it's worth asking the same question.